The term cut is a holdover from the era of film. Film is a physical medium which can be cut into pieces and taped back together to create a narrative. In the late 19th century, the first films consisted of a single load of the camera. Whatever was captured on that load made up the entire film. Formal editing, as we know it today, came along shortly after as the practice of slicing up the film and taping or gluing it back together became more commonplace. Therefore, the cut is technically where one shot ends and the next one begins. While that is the technical definition of the cut, there is also a more philosophical definition. The cut is a tool the editor uses to create the pace and texture and emotional resonance in a scene. It also serves as a transition from one scene to the next. An editor must know when to cut and when to let the tape run. The cut is so important. Walter Murch wrote, "The discovery early in this century that certain kinds of cutting worked led almost immediately to the discovery that films could be shot discontinuously, which was the cinematic equivalent of the discovery of flight. This meant that scenes of our story could be shot out of order and later cut and assembled in the editing bay." Post-production editing is so often driven by the practice of cutting to continuity. A film is made up of several cuts, which are juxtaposed together to create meaning, and it is primarily from these juxtapositions that we as the viewer understand the story being told. Cutting to continuity tries to preserve the fluidity of an event without showing all of it. We cut from shot to shot, from scene to scene, from sequence to sequence. A shot is considered the smallest unit of measurement in a film. A scene is made up of several shots. A sequence is made of multiple scenes. The cut is fundamental. So fundamental that it seems impossible that a feature-length film could be produced any other way. But as it turns out, there are alternatives to the traditional cut. Many filmmakers transition from one scene to another using a fade, dissolve, iris, or wipe. In a fade, the frame slowly darkens to black as the movie transitions from one scene to the next. In a dissolve, one scene begins to disappear while the next begins to appear. One shot dissolves out as the next shot dissolves in. The screen never turns black like in a fade. A wipe is when one shot seems to be pushed aside by another. One shot is wiped away and replaced by the next. And finally, an iris transition is when the shot slowly collapses into a tiny circle often, but not always, ending in a black screen like the fade. Another alternative to the traditional cut is to not make a cut for a very long time. This is the long take. Several classic and contemporary directors are known for their use of the long take. Joe Wright, the director of the 2005 adaptation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, is well known for his use of the long take. Pride and Prejudice opens with a long take which introduces us to the members of our main family, as well as their home. Wright went on to direct Atonement, which has a 5-minute long take during the Battle of Dunkirk. His long take in Atonement can be considered a sequence shot. A sequence shot is when an entire sequence, which would normally consist of multiple scenes, is captured in one shot. Wright's film Hannah has a nearly 3-minute fight scene, all shot in one take. The long take must accomplish the same tasks as cutting to continuity by relying upon a steady pace and elaborate camera moves. The camera moves allow the filmmaker to change the objects within the frame without making a cut. This visual variety in the frame keeps the viewer interested, much more so than if you were watching 30, 40, or even 120 minutes of a static shot. The long take can be used to slow the pace of the film. Some directors have also used the long take to make commentary on the increasingly fast pace of editing in cinema. The advent of digital video has made it easier for filmmakers to go beyond the long take and experiment with creating films made in one continuous shot. Before digital video, one-shot films were unlikely because there are limits on how many feet of film a camera can hold. Digital video solves that problem with existing camera systems now capable of capturing several hours of footage. So what does a one-shot film look like, and are they difficult to produce? Also, what does the concept one-shot film even mean? To qualify as a one-shot film, the entire movie must be recorded in one take. Let that soak in for just a moment. The entire film must be accomplished in one take. Producing any film is a complex endeavor. Producing a one-shot film takes that level of complexity to a whole new level. As mentioned in the section on the long take, such endeavors require complex choreography. Victoria, produced in 2015, is a German drama film directed by Sebastian Schipper. The entire film is accomplished in one shot. Post-production editing is both a technical and artistic endeavor. Knowing when to make the cut or when to let it run is a decision made by considering the story, the physical footage, the pacing of the edit, and the overall endeavor toward art. Some of the decisions are made before post-production editing ever begins. Many directors make production decisions based upon what they expect to happen in post. Obviously, with a long take or a one-shot film, we could say editing is being done through choreography during production, and the post-production editor will have very little work to do. In general, the post-production edit is a complicated stage where the story is put together piece by piece with the hopes that the final product will move, fascinate, and entertain the viewer. Every shot is considered as each scene is built. The transitions between scenes can happen with a fade, a wipe, a cut, or an iris, and each scene becomes part of a larger sequence as the full film takes shape.